Well, welcome back for the second episode of Cards and Coffee. We're going to call this episode Shildtdown. What we're going to do today is we're going to break down that interview Mike Shildt did with, I believe it was Derrick Goold, Katie Wu, and Brenden Schaefer had some really good questions. They had some good back and forth in there. And Mike had some interesting responses, some stuff you may agree with, some stuff you may not agree with. And that's, what we're going to do here. One of the things is I want you guys to share in the chat, wherever you're watching from. I want you to share in the chat and give your insights as I go along and give mine. So we'll watch the video, stop, talk about some stuff, and then keep going. But, morning, Terry. Also, though, just kind of a recap, Cardinals lost last night. Looks like it was 8-2, 2 runs on 6 hits with an error, and the Detroit Tigers scored 8 runs on 12 hits, and it looks like the wheels came off for Oviedo in the 4th. I'm not really sure what's going on here. I know you can say, the pitching was really bad. True. But honestly, we get good pitching and we still don't win. So to me, the problem is the offense. And I think that's why we're going to talk about this video here. I think that Mike Shildt reveals some stuff. This is why I really appreciate being able to see the interviews. And I'm pulling this off of Charlie Marlowe's YouTube page. So if you haven't followed Charlie, give him a follow. Good morning, Darren. Give him a follow. Subscribe to his YouTube page. Click the notification bell. And while you're on YouTube, if you're watching from Facebook now, go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube page and click the notification bell so you can get notified when we go live. But give Charlie's YouTube page a follow. He does awesome stuff like this, and I really wish that we could get more of this because I think more is gleaned from watching a person answer questions than the answer that they give. There's so much more communicated, and so that's one of the things that I really wanted to go through this with you guys and watch this interview. So anyway, without any further ado, this video is about 17 minutes long. Was it 17 minutes and 30 seconds? And we will go a little bit longer because we're going to stop and talk about some things. So let me go ahead and get this started. Okay, so I know that I killed the question here, but the very first thing I wanted you to see is Mike Shildt's body language, right? So he went from first removing his glasses, and he didn't set them down on the table, right? You could hear him thump. He's on the table. He's like, I don't want to talk about this. And then he does this. How many times have you had somebody look at you like this? And it be a good thing that's going to be coming. This is going to be a standoff right now. So I just wanted to start with that. Okay, so Terry said there's no sound. Let me make sure. Share audio. I'll back it up a little bit. All right, let's try this again.
Mike, here in the past few weeks, some of the things you've talked to us about is about the ebb and flow of the season. Also,
glasses on the table, finger by the face.
Is there a time when urgency is demanded, when some kind of change is required, something to drill the team is necessary? And how do you know when the time is right?
Well, there is a time and there is a place, and um, I can appreciate and understand completely the question. Um, is it appropriate to, you know, turn over a spread with a group of guys that show up every day and bust their ass and prepare? And no, it's not. It might be for some people. Do you want to see demonstrative? Um, for me personally, unnatural, aggressive body language or conversation during a game. People may want to see it to think that's going to fire the troops up. Um, and believe me, I've done it. I've done it if I thought it was necessary. But um, clearly, listen, you play a game like that, we played more than we're used to playing. I can't alibi any of that, Derrick. I cannot do that. Um, but we also just got 3 wins in a row on 3 hard-fought competitive baseball games where guys played their tails off.
Let me stop it right there. So one of the things I want to talk about here, and one of the things that kind of bothers me about this is one, I don't know how many of you guys played for a coach that was like a loud coach, hardcore coach, turntables over kind of coach. That's kind of an old school way of doing things. And maybe we've moved away from that. Maybe we haven't. I don't know. Maybe there are some coaches that still like to do that sort of thing. Mike Shildt is not that guy. He is, he's a player's coach, right? He's there to defend his guys. And I understand that and I get that. But there's a fine line between defending your guys and babying your guys. And as much as I want to say this, and I'm not sure that if I should say this, but I feel like if there's a line, he is leaning on the babying your guys kind of line. That's a heck of a place to stop, too. Look at that expression. Wow. Anyway, let's see what Darren Hare has to say. He said, certain players have earned jobs outside of the obvious Goldschmidt, Yachty, and Nolan. Guys such as Carlson and Edmund O'Neill have played well enough to earn a job in 2022. I agree. Those guys have. And they're kind of key guys to this team. But back to what Shilt's doing here is he talks an awful lot about how hard they're working. They're just trying really hard. Yeah, I know. But results matter, right? This is a results-oriented business. You're not playing baseball for fun at this point. This is your job. This is your career. This is everything. And there's not many people out there in their job where if they screwed things up consistently or consistently did a bad job, that A, they're not either going to get some instruction, or B, it's going to cost them their job. That's just it. Trying hard is good. You want to see that. But at the end of the day, you need to see results no matter how hard they try. And he'll get into more of this later on as he starts talking. But that's kind of one thing I wanted to point out here. So I really don't like that he's kind of babying these guys because, they're big boys. They play in front of thousands and tens of thousands of fans. If you play for the Cardinals, generally in a regular season, you're going to be playing in front of millions of fans over the course of a season. And one of the things that I really, really, really wish that he would realize, and this isn't an enviable position, right? I mean, yeah, okay, he's a major league manager, and that is kind of enviable. But to be a major league manager there's like really 2 teams that come to my mind whenever I think about this that would be really hard. Not because of the team, but because of the fan base, right? The Yankees and the Cardinals. Both of these teams are storied franchises with really intelligent fan bases. Now, the way that aggressiveness is going to come across between the two is going to be a little bit different. New York fans are going to be in your face and all over you, and you're going to get called names like bum and clown and stuff like that. And I guess if you get called a clown from somebody from New York, that's a pretty big insult. But anyway, Cardinals fans are smart too, and they have a high expectation of this team. So he's like, that gets into what he was talking about here with the Marlins series. He's like, we win 3 games against the Marlins, 3 hard-fought games, and that's kind of like expected. Yeah, We expect you to beat teams. If you want to be a division-winning team, we expect our team to beat teams that are below 500 and in the basement of their divisions. Yes, we expected you to sweep the Marlins. That is to be expected, and that's not wrong to expect that. But then to look at the second two games, and this is part of my consternation, I looked at those second two games that we won against the Marlins by 1 run each. 2-1 and 1-0, and we waited until the 9th inning. We had to walk off the Marlins, all right? We didn't go out there and smash them. So those two games could have very easily been 2 losses. So it wasn't exactly an outstanding performance. Now, he'll talk about the pitchers that he faced, and maybe they are good. But good grief, how many pitchers are just going to have career outings against the Cardinals? How many? They can't do it all the time. It's not the pitching if you constantly are getting beat by guys who are journeymen. Smiley, what is that? And then who was the first guy that they played after this game? He's just nothing. Charlie Morton, very average pitcher, and they couldn't score more than 1 run against him. It's ridiculous. It's the offense. 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 And it doesn't matter if your pitcher goes out and throws an amazing outing. Look at Wainwright this year. He has had so many good outings that are just wasted because the offense can't scratch across more than 1 or 2 runs. Last night, 2 runs. You know? It's your offense. It's your offense, Mike. And yes, the guys are trying hard, but they're not having results. Anyway, let's get back to this and hear what he has to say. Oh, and stop bringing up what we did in the past.
And quite honestly, if you looked at tonight's game, would I have an issue with something? But yeah, possibly. But what's the issue with? Tyler O'Neill goes back, makes a great play in a 9-1 game. Lane Thomas goes there and makes a great play against the fence in a game. You got guys that are giving effort. We're hitting balls. We weren't very. Carlos was not sharp tonight. Is that we weren't able to swing the bats and put anything together. We start off the first inning. Eddie hit strokes a double.
Just quick note there. I don't know if you caught it or not, but whenever he was talking about how we played tonight, he almost said we weren't good tonight, and he stops himself. So he's trying to be really controlled right here, right? So he started off the interview. He threw his glasses down. His tell is kind of that he takes his cap off and runs his fingers through his hair, and he likes to go to his face a lot when he's frustrated. Watch for those little keys as he goes through there. There's a lot of things like he's like, I don't really want to talk about this because I don't think it's fair that we do. But at the same time, that's your job. You got to do it. And it is fair that we talk about this because at the end of the day, wins and losses matter. I don't know what we are in our last 7 games, but I'll look that up while we're watching the rest of this. But anyway, let me keep going here.
One does a great job, of battling his tail off. Eddie does a fantastic job of getting over and getting a great read on the ground ball to third. And Goldie, infield back, 2 strikes, it's his ground ball, and we're up 1-0, feeling good about life. And, we go back out and we just couldn't execute pitches, more balls and strikes and balls out of the ballpark. So, I mean, I do understand the, but what do you, and I talk about this, think about this all the time. What needs to be different? We've isolated things and figured it out. We just got to be more consistent as a group. And
we've isolated things and figured it out. Well, I think if you figured it out, Mike, we would have different results on the field right now. You haven't figured it out yet. You're not sure what's going on. Anyway.
And but I'm not going to go and go full metal jacket on a group of guys that are laying it out there as best they can. You see them in there, and these guys are hurting. If I saw indifference, saw lack of effort, I saw,
Okay, so I appreciate Mike Shildt wanting to defend his guys here, but he's like, these guys are hurting. The sympathy card doesn't play for me. It shouldn't play for you. I'm sure it doesn't play for you, and it shouldn't play for the Cardinals, right? I'm tired of this victimhood mentality. If you keep thinking that you're a victim, be it your schedule or injuries or whatever it is, because these seem to be the things, and then not getting credit. These are kind of the three big things that he always goes back to. It's like, well, last year we struggled with this, and then we had this big hard thing, and we overcame that, which Derrick Goold makes a great point on that, and you can kind of see it kind of take Micah back. But victim mentality, no. See, don't coddle your guys. You can say, these guys are trying really hard. Yes, they're trying really hard. You can say that and still say we need to be better. You know, you don't need to tell me how they're hurting. I don't need to feel sorry for my baseball team, right? I need my baseball team to play better. And I'm not asking that he go in, like he said, and go full metal jacket. But I'm also asking that you're a little tougher than what you're being. I don't, like, to me, when somebody goes and says, hey, we're trying really hard and you're trying to get me to feel sorry for you, that's a turnoff to me. I don't like that. That actually makes me more upset with you. Just own what you're doing. I'm trying A, B, and C, and I'm not getting the results that I want. I will do better. That needs to be the saying. Not, well, they're sad because they're not getting the results that they wanted. No. See, I don't like that. I don't like that. And going back to talking about, and so like Darren had mentioned, he would say the Dodgers would be a good one. I haven't seen too much out of LA media, but I'm sure that they can be pretty harsh too. But the Cardinals have a tough, smart, intelligent fan base. You know, people mock us and call us the best fans in baseball, but I will tell you this: when you go to a Cardinals game and you watch the fans react and you watch that, it's different than whenever you go to a game, say at Cincinnati or where's the other one? I was Houston. Chicago White Sox, those fans, they're not as into the game. It's not as important to them. It's more of a social event than we're here to watch a ball game. They're there to chat with their friends. They don't, as a whole, there are smart fans in every fan base. There's incredibly intelligent fans in every bit, but they're not hanging on every pitch the way Cardinals fans do. And so when you do that, you need to have an intelligent manager who can handle that situation. And while Mike is a great guy for his team, he's not great in that situation, right? He doesn't, like I said, going back to this, we're trying to make us feel bad for his guys. That's not what you need to do as a manager. That's not what you need to do as a fan base. That's kind of insulting. So anyway, let's get back to what he was talking about here.
Just giving away competition, yeah, and I have and would say something that's done in private. As far as the lineup goes, we have what we have, and it's been plenty good. So
it has not been plenty good. Yes, we have what we have. So whenever he says, when you look at the lineup and that face he made, yeah, he doesn't know what else to do. And to be honest with you, if we're all honest with ourselves, how would you change this lineup? Because there's not really much else to do. Last night's lineup I would have done a little bit differently. It would have been the same guys in the batting order, but I would have put Sosa at short. I'd have put Edman at second, Newt Barr right, and then I would have put my Gold Glove left fielder in left field instead of being a DH. But outside of that, you're just shuffling guys around defensively. What really can you do? So I think that Mike here does have a point. What can you do? We have what we have as far as a lineup. So your guys have to be better if you're going to be better. Fair enough. But I also think he went back and tried to he said something like, hey, we need help. We're not there yet. And it's injuries and stuff like that. And he's not getting it, which, I don't know, man. I sit here and I think, do you guys get or understand what, do you invest in this team as it sits now? Is it good enough to do that? Or do you just kind of hold on and hope that you're competitive, and maybe if they show some life by the end of the season, if you're in it, then you go out and make a splash move? I don't know. They're at a really weird point right now. So, yeah, Mike Shildt can't hit for the guys. But that doesn't mean that I like what he's doing in this interview. I don't like that attitude, and I think that your manager contributes to the overall culture of your clubhouse. And maybe if you keep going with this victim mindset, you're going to have guys that feel like, well, we're just getting a bad shake of things. Life is like that. You get a bad shake. But hear me. You play the hand that you're dealt. And this is the hand that you're dealt, and you play it to the best of your ability. You don't curl up, you don't feel sorry for yourself, and you don't expect me to feel sorry for you. There are a lot of people out there with more hard things to do in life than not winning a couple baseball games. These are professionals getting paid a lot of money. When they're not good, say they're not good. It's okay. They'll be fine. And if they're not, they need to get fine with it if they want to be a professional baseball player.
I don't know if I'm making sense to you about what I'm trying to articulate, because I don't want to turn a blind eye to it. But you win 3 in a row, and it's like taken for granted. And 2 days later, it's
17-1 versus the Marlins, like Chris pointed out.
Drastically different, and
yes,
I mean,
we expect you to win 3.
Wade LeBlanc, who came in and threw 3 great innings tonight, and was an incremental improvement to our group, clearly, from last night and tonight. I don't know what else to share with you on that one. I do understand it, though.
I think that, I understand that question and effort is usually a third rail, and that was not my intention, and neither was it to dismiss 3 consecutive wins against the Marlins, which did happen, as you said. Those are in the books. But it's also 13 losses in 18 games. And there were some elements of tonight's game, please push back if you disagree, where some of the things where you have pointed out improvement were step backs.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said we've been.
I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate Derrick Goold because he didn't take it. He's like, okay, yeah, that's no small feat, but still, look at how many we've lost. So anyway, keep going there. But good reply by D. Goold here.
Prove, but I mean, it's not. I mean, we're not perfect, and we're going to have games, and we didn't throw strikes. Carlos didn't throw as many strikes tonight. Breaking ball got away twice, hit Acuna. He's behind in counts. He's trying to shrink the zone. He got paid for it. I mean, that's how made him pay. That's how it works. I mean, I don't want to push back, because I don't want to push back too aggressively, because you're right, but I can't say that we're going to play perfect every night and we're going to throw strikes every single night. But I can't sit there and not be aware when we do it well and we get beat. We beat ourselves now. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Do we need to be more consistent? Yes. I can't alibi that. I won't.
You see the offense trying to force an issue a little bit, and then down like that after a positive start, it tries to be too much.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, listen, it's we got to score more runs. And we can talk about expected slug and expected all these different numbers that are in our favor from that standpoint. But we all know it's a result-oriented gig.
Okay, here's one spot that I do agree with him, and I think part of the Cardinals' hitting struggles have to do with this. You look at things, and this is Major League Baseball wide, right? We have downplayed the importance of batting average. We've looked at things like on-base plus slugging. Now, to me, here's the problem with just focusing on one type of stat, right? So I've never been one that's like batting average tells the whole story. It absolutely doesn't. But no stat tells the whole story. No stat does. When you look at something like on-base plus slugging, OPS plus, I think it is, or whatever, what it is weighted toward, regardless of whether you understand this or not, what it's weighted toward is walks and home runs. All right? There's so much baseball in between walks and home runs that you miss if you just focus on OBS plus. Can you look out there and say, well, yeah, but then batting average isn't important at all? Well, no. I mean, batting average is important too because it measures actual success, right? So you have potential success versus actual success, and only one of those count in the real world. Now, to me, the potential success is important when evaluating your players, right? When you want to look at a guy, maybe you want to bring him in off of out of free agency, or you want to make a trade for a guy. Looking at these potential things like what should he have, XBA. What should the batting average on that particular ball be? If he has a lot of that, then that's good. Then maybe he's just having guys make good plays on him, or maybe he plays in a park that's a little too big, or a park that's he plays against consistently plays against teams that have good outfielders that can shag those balls, or good infields that can shag those balls or whatever and make the outs. Sure, absolutely. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you got to look at things like batting average and whether or not guys are getting on base, right? Batting average tells you what they get on base. Now, it doesn't tell you how they got on base as far as should that outfielder have made that play. But at the end of the day, it measures what actually happened. So you've got to take expected batting average, OPS plus, all these things, and you got to put them together. Now, I'm sure the front office is doing that. We as amateurs don't do that. We like to pick our favorite stat that we really understand really well and use that one. But what can you do, right? You can't make your guys do that. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Should our offense be better? I mean, maybe. Maybe we're focusing on the wrong things. I happen to think that we are focusing on the wrong things. Let's see here. What did Darren say? Who's out there who could be an old-school skipper besides LaRussa? Shildt is one in our minors, pretty much why he got the job. In the majors, minor league success doesn't mean major league success. Yeah, I don't know if they need an old-school manager, though. I think they just need somebody who's a little less coddling. And I think Shildt can be that guy. I do. I don't think Mike Shildt's the problem. Let me get that out there real quick. The Cardinals' problem is not Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt's in a tough spot that he has to come out and defend a team that's underperforming, and I don't like his defense for this team. But he is not the problem. He is not the problem. He makes some weird managerial mistakes, right? Every now and then, you're like, why do you do that? But whenever your team's losing 9-1, those little mistakes aren't what's costing you the games. So anyway, let's keep going.
And our offense has to be more consistent. We were talking before the game, and I can run it down again. I mean, Eddie has been pretty good. His OPS has gone down a little bit from the left side recently, but he's been one of the leaders in the National League in hits. He's played pretty darn well. He's been lauded nationally, rightfully so. Dylan, going to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation.
Not at this rate.
Nolan are human, and they've had some big swings for us this year. Yachty's having an offensive year that's...
Nolan Arenado has played well. Goldschmidt is underperforming. He's had some big swings, but we need more consistent swings out of him. He's very much below where he should be, and we need to figure out why that is, and we need to fix that. Yes, Yachty's been doing well.
Really as good as he's had in several years. O'Neill's on pace for an All-Star game.
Yes.
Sosa's
go vote for O'Neill for the All-Star game,
well.
by the way.
Paulie was swinging the bat well and still getting his rhythm back, it looks like.
No. Paul DeYoung has not been swinging the bat well. Paul DeYoung is batting under 200. Yes, he's hitting home runs every now and then. Yes, he goes on hot streaks, but he hasn't been anything he should have been since that first season with the Cardinals when he came up and hit 30 home runs. Actually, I think it was 2019 whenever they hired Jeff Albert that you saw his progress come to a screeching halt. So no, Paul DeYoung has not been playing well. See, this is the thing. This is what I'm talking about. You don't need to defend him. And if you don't want to defend him, you don't even need to bring it up. Yes, Edman has been playing well. Dylan Carlson should get all Rookie of the Year votes if he keeps playing. But he's been sliding. He's been slumping. So if he keeps going on this trajectory, he's not going to. Goldschmidt has not been playing well. I mean, he hasn't. Not as good as what he should be. Arenado's played well. Yachty's having a great season. Yes, I agree. Holy cow, Tyler O'Neill is probably your best offensive player right now. Great. Absolutely. Paul DeYoung is not somebody you need to mention in that conversation. Sosa's having a decent year. You don't mention Paul DeYoung. You don't bring him into it. You don't do any of that. So, anyway, keep going here.
Maybe that gets him going a little bit. But,
it didn't.
He's a capable guy. Just about putting it all together. We just hadn't been able to do it. And, if you want to have anybody to have any responsibility of that, I'll take that.
Good on him for taking responsibility for that. That's what a manager's supposed to do. I will take the responsibility for that. I will take that. But we all know who the problem is, and it isn't Mike Shildt. Am I right? I'll tell you what. if you guys have an idea of who I'm talking about, who I think the problem is, why don't you just go ahead and put that in the chat? Put that in the chat, and I'll share it up on the screen whenever you guys hit it and you get the right one. All right, so let's watch Katie Wu here, and here's something that I noticed with Katie and with Mike, and see if you guys pick up on it.
And Wade LeBlanc, like you mentioned, come out and be able to provide length and two different opportunities. Wade especially was effective, and Jake too was able to settle down.
So when Katie started talking, remember that body language we talked about, how he does this? That's a defense mechanism that he does that shows uncomfortable. He's not comfortable with this conversation. And when she starts talking, he leans back. And big inhale. So, anyway, let's watch a little bit more and watch this.
Is this the case where either are building up to go longer or maybe even in a start role if the case is necessary?
I think, Wade has been built up, and he could do that. That's why we were able to feel comfortable with him. Probably on his last hitter, we didn't want him going past 40. I mean, he was on a routine where his start would have been yesterday because he has been starting, but he threw, took 2 hitters yesterday, so we didn't want to ride him too much past 40 today. But, so he's built up, to answer your question. And Woody, it's hard to build a guy up to a 85 pitch mark during the season. So I don't know if that's reasonable, but it would, if we were intentional about doing it, we could make anything happen.
So he was, Katie was asking about stretching out guys like Woodford and LeBlanc, and so basically they answer the question. So like that is such an innocuous question, right? It's such a benign question, and to see his reaction that way, like, here we go, kind of tells me that maybe there might be some animosity there or some tension between those two, which I don't think is fair, but. Yeah. We'll get to that real quick, Chris. We'll get that a little bit.
And then this kind of going back to Derrick's point, but I mean, we've talked about this before in this clubhouse.
He doesn't like Katie. He doesn't like her. Look at that. It's like now we got to talk about what Goold talked about again. Darren, I don't think much of this can be blamed on Mike Maddox, because these guys threw strikes last year and he's had a bunch of success with these same guys. So I think it's just a yips thing. It's a mental thing, and that's what's getting them.
Level-headed, they obviously believe in the talent, but during stretches like this, teams can sometimes kind of press. How is a clubhouse, can they avoid doing that? Because often when we press, it can get worse. Have you felt that they're pressing by any means?
I mean, yeah, look, who's not pressing on some level? I mean, we have to answer the questions, right? We have to answer the questions that are appropriate to answer. And we have to look up and, we play a game in front of, a lot of people, and that's wonderful. It's a great opportunity. We're blessed to do it. But people are human too.
You're getting in his feelings again.
Probably a wonderful trait of this group is the fact this group cares more than anybody has any idea about. I wish people could have a glimpse, including back to, and I'm going to probably talk for just a second, including back to last year, which I'll get to in a minute. If you had
Why are we getting back to last year? Last year was last year. This year is this year.
any idea, like I can promise you right now, we got 3 of our regulars in the weight room right now. We have another 2 to 3 guys looking at video. We have pitchers reviewing video right now. We probably have 4 coaches right now looking at video. We have probably 6 conversations taking place about tonight's game. All right? So, yeah, my point saying all that is people are invested. And when people are invested to the level that this group's invested in, and they care to the level they care, yeah, and it doesn't work out, and you're not meeting your own expectations, which are high, then yeah, people may press. Now, the flip side of that is we know we can play. We know what we're capable of. So it's not, and it is a fine line. And there are conversations. There are hard conversations, to Derrick's point, that take place. No one's in there alibiing it. But collectively as a group, not going to go in and get after people or try to shake it up when there's a group.
I don't know that maybe I'm wrong. I'm not asking him to go yell at people. Are you guys asking him to go yell at people? I mean, I feel like that's what he thinks we're wanting him to do when we talk about shaking it up. But what I'm talking about with shaking it up is moving people around the lineups, giving other guys starts. Maybe don't play your second baseman in right field, that sort of thing. Put people where they're best suited to succeed and give them the opportunity to succeed. And if they're not succeeding, give somebody else that opportunity to take up that slack. During this game, this is one thing I do remember. Just the hitting coach, Patty says, just yell at him. Just you stink. Stop it. Do better. Anyway, I remember. I think it was Danny Mac and Brad Thompson were talking about this, and they were talking about it. So after Carlos melted down, and to me, Carlos's problems started, and they'll talk about this a little bit later. And Carlos's problems started whenever Yachty didn't make a play on Acuna at home. And I don't know if there was miscommunication and Goldschmidt was supposed to cut that ball off and get Freddie Freeman in a rundown, or if Yachty just thought, hey, I'm just going to throw Freddie Freeman out at second because we don't have a shot at Acuna. But Acuna hadn't even started to dive by the time Yachty caught the ball. Now, Yachty was standing in front of home plate, and if he'd have been behind it, Acuna would have been in a little bit different place. But I still think if you go back and you watch the replay, I think that the throw got there way faster than anybody thought it would. And I think that they had him. I think they had Acuna dead to right at home. And I think if they get him out, that changes the entire perspective of that game. Because if you watch Carlos Martinez pitch, Carlos Martinez is an emotional pitcher. So when he has good emotions, whenever he's feeling it, whenever he feels like he's the baddest man on the planet, he is the baddest man on the planet. But whenever he doesn't feel like he's the baddest man on the planet, whenever he gets into his own head, the wheels come off. So you watched him, like there's a good camera angle and you see him, and whenever the Yachty cuts that off and then doesn't get Freeman out at second, you see Carlos throw his hands up like, what are you doing? And anyway, and it was right after that the wheels came off. So then Danny Mac, and back to my original point though, but Danny Mac and Thompson were talking about, it was like, well, once they pulled Carlos Martinez out, here's your chance, Woodford, to prove that you belong in the starting rotations. Come in there. And they kept saying the word pumping strikes. Go in there and pump strikes. Go in there and pump strikes. Pump strikes. Guess what Woodford didn't do? He didn't pump strikes. He didn't do it. And so they scored more runs. Everybody that Carlos Martinez left on base came around to score, plus Woodford ended up walking the bases loaded, and it just went all downhill from there. But LeBlanc came in and LeBlanc threw strikes and LeBlanc had success. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can do whenever you don't have to groove a ball because you can throw strikes whenever there's nobody on base. Anyway, back to Shildt.
Group of people that are preparing and playing, and if anything, when things don't go well, it probably needs to be pulled back and just go play. And,
I agree with him
not
here.
Kumbaya, but just trust and enjoy, and that's a healthy thing, and we know what that looks like.
I agree with him 100% there. If your team is pressing, maybe they need to go on a fishing trip together or something. Something not baseball. Unbaseball yourself, reset, then re-baseball yourself. Maybe that's what they're doing wrong. Maybe they're just all pressing too hard, trying to do too much. In the gaming industry, we call them sweaty tryhards. But anyway, let's keep going.
And the other part of this is that the high majority of this clubhouse went through that, candidly, I don't feel like got credit for last year, because I feel like I'm always having to defend this group. Okay, and I will.
You have to defend this group because this group is consistently underperforming, and we get nothing but excuses from you. If I were in a performance meeting with him, that's exactly what I would respond to with that. The reason you feel like you have to defend this group is because this group isn't living up to their expectations. They aren't living up to what we know that they're capable of. That's why you have to defend them. When you're expected to be here and you're only being here or here or here, you deserve every ounce of criticism. It's a good team. Yes, we agree. A team with Goldschmidt, Arenado, Waino, Jack Flaherty, Yachty, these guys, that's a great core of people. And then you added Edman and a Carlson to it. Those are two good ball players. And then Tyler O'Neill's playing outside of his mind. He's a good ball player. And they're still getting thumped 9-1. Yes! Yes, we're going to complain. Yes, you're going to have to defend them. It's fair. It's not unfair. It's fair. Why aren't you as good as you're supposed to be? That's an honest and fair question. Am I wrong? Anyway, back to him whining more about how tough things are.
And I won't defend anything blindly.
But he does.
I'm a true, transparent guy, and I'm a truth teller. But this group last year went through the most amazing obstacles you may ever see in sports and came it through with flying colors and made the playoffs, and it was a ho-hum like, yeah, okay. That's a...
Would they have made the playoffs if the playoffs weren't expanded for last year? The answer is no, they wouldn't have. So should we give them credit for that, for getting in on a technicality? Yeah, that was a hard stretch. It was a tough stretch, playing a lot of baseball, more baseball. They played more games than they did in days. But, so tip of the cap, way to stick it out, way to tough it out. But the only reason you made the playoffs was because they expanded the playoffs. Matter of fact, almost everybody in the NL Central made the playoffs. Cards, Reds, Cubs, Brewers even. So, do you make the playoffs if that doesn't happen? And then you go out there and you play one heck of a game against San Diego, but you only played one heck of a game. And then you gave up a home run to Tatis Jr., and then it was all downhill from there, and then you lost the next two. We expect you to win. And that's part of the hard part about playing in St. Louis. This franchise has a history, a storied history. There's only one franchise in baseball who has more World Series wins than us. And that's the New York Yankees. Like, worldwide, when you think baseball, you think Yankees. And then the only other team that even comes close to that is Cardinals. Nobody else is in the conversation. So, anyway, back to it.
Same group that's in this clubhouse now that went through that kind of adversity in a pandemic with 11 doubleheaders. Now, can we live in the past? No, we can rely on it. We can't exactly lean on it. I don't know if I got the words right. Not really, but
you can look back and know what you're capable of. That's what you're trying to say. You saw what you did last year. That means that you can do more this year.
it takes. We stayed together last year. We stayed true to our processes. We made adjustments when appropriate, and people stepped up. We're going through a stretch where the team's banged up a little bit, and we're giving it and laying it out there the best we can every single night, and we're coming up short more recently than not. Up until this moment, recently, that's 3 weeks, and I'm gonna defend.
3 weeks that currently have you sitting in fourth place in the division that took you out of first place. You slid from, I forget however many games over 500 to now you're 1 game under 500, and you're in fourth place. Fourth place, 4.5 games back of the lead in the Central. You're a half game behind Cincinnati, who's 4 games out, and then Milwaukee and Chicago are tied for first. And the only team that's worse than you in the Central is the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are 26 and 45. So spare me the "it's only been 3 weeks" thing.
And a group of guys, rightfully so, who I know leave their tails out in that field every night and are hurting. And I'm not going to go in there and turn over a table or get after them because they're frustrated. And yeah, they pressing. Yeah, I think they probably are on some levels. Do we have conversations about what that looks like and keep the appropriate focus? Because it is. It's such a balancing act. And this group has veteran leadership, and I've been here enough to know how it looks like. It's important that I support them, stay even keel, and give them a nudge when necessary. But I don't have to give this group a lot of nudges because this group, it's an impressive group I have a lot of respect for. And there's some people learning what some of this looks like as well. We have a few more of those guys that are learning what that looks like, getting opportunities, figuring out what that looks like. There's a learning curve to that we're trying to accelerate as quick as we can, but nonetheless, on a big stage, it still happens, and it's happening. So hopefully that answered your question. I appreciated it.
It does. Thank you for your canvassing and being honest there. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Brenden Schaefer, KMOV TV.
Mike, you alluded to the work and the preparation that's going in, and a few moments ago you went up and down the lineup, and the track record with all of these names and the guys that have been here before, is that what just makes a stretch like this particularly offensively just kind of inexplicable for you as the manager, and just knowing that these guys have up and down your lineup have been there and thrived before, like you've seen them do it?
Absolutely, and that causes the frustration that we talk about because but that's the thing that also causes the comfort for me at least, and it's a mindset of how you want to look at it, right? And everybody's going to have their own opinion, rightfully so. It's what makes the game great, and so. But I did go through up and down the lineup. This is a group that's gone through adversity. This is a group that's played, in some cases, a long time in this league that understands what this looks like and how to turn it around. And there's some guys figuring out what that looks like that are a little bit younger. But there are also, guys that have experiences in doing it. And, so that does, when you look up and you go, man, this is a group that knows what it looks like. It's a group that's made the playoffs the last 2 years. And, again, we're not wrestling laurels. We're building off the laurels. But let's don't forget and make things bigger
Whatever
than
that
they are.
means.
Because that's when you get into trouble, I think. And look, again, I got to say this. No one's going to sit here and say we're as good as we need to be right now. I'm not saying that. I'm not alibiing it. We need to improve in areas and be more consistent.
Okay, this is just kind of a side note. He looks frustrated that I interrupted him. Anyway, he uses the term "I'm not alibiing" in that. Is that like the correct usage of that phrase? I know having an alibi is something, but I'm not alibiing that. Is he using that correctly, or should he be saying something more like he's defending? Anyway, just semantics right there at that point. But just a question that I had.
No doubt about it.
Oh, I was right. No.
One quick game question and then one just general question.
All right, game.
Okay, body language time again. Look at him. He's like, oh, we could talk about the game because I'm tired of talking about this team underperforming. Maybe we can figure something out. Now, so this next part here is he's going to get into what happened with Carlos Martinez. And Mike Shildt is really happy to talk about mechanics and what's going on there.
That's okay.
The 2-out walk to Acuna and all that followed there, is that for you where Carlos has pivoted and started searching a little bit for his mechanics?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he just fell out of his rhythm of what he was doing. I don't know that he was. I think early on he felt like he had it, and then I just felt like he just lost his rhythm and his feel for what he was doing, and So, and then he just wasn't able to get it back, and he was either out of it or in it too much, and that was part of his issue tonight. He wasn't able to repeat what he's doing. He wasn't able to make adjustments quick enough.
Hey, one of the things that I noticed on that game, and I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, Carlos Martinez is a emotional rhythm pitcher, right? And Mike Shildt just mentioned that in this. He got out of his rhythm. He got out of his head, right? He started getting frustrated with himself, and then it was all downhill from there. But one of the things that I noticed that the Braves were doing was they know this about him, so they were stepping out, they were calling time, stuff like that. So when Carlos gets the ball, he likes to get the ball, get the mound, rock and fire. So you get the ball, he get ready to pitch, and then they'd be like, and I know that gets in his head. I know it does. And that kind of contributed to what happened here. That's part of their strategy. And when we talk about strategy, that's maybe something the Cardinals need to incorporate in their approach to hitting. They need to have a better strategy. Anyway, let's go back to what he's going to say, because he's going to about finish up here, and then we can talk a little bit, and then I'll wrap.
That's the conversation, really. If there's a conversation to be had, or you want to talk about, big picture, it's more about what adjustment you need to make to get back to getting consistent. Those are the type of conversations that we have. And what does that look like? And that's a process, growth-oriented mindset, as opposed to big picture, let's go. We all know we got to go. We also know it's, still June. And the game tomorrow is just as important for me as the game in October, because they all matter.
And Mike, having seen your team last year, and you mentioned all that it overcame, and seeing that firsthand and understanding that it probably was more behind closed doors, but at least giving myself some credit for picking up on what you guys are going through. I think that set the bar higher for what should be expected from your team, because it was able to get through that. Then you start asking questions, at least from my point of view, you start asking questions because you know what's possible. And you know what the expectations are internally. And so when they're not met, that's the driving force.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good...
That is a great point by Derrick Goold, and I don't know if you guys could hear that, but basically what he was saying is he goes, you're looking at this wrong. He said this much more respectively. He said, we saw what they did last year, and that set the bar of expectation high. We saw that what they were able to go through and how they were able to make the playoffs, even if it was on that expanded playoff thing for last year. We saw the mental toughness this team's capable of, and that set the bar high, which is why we have high expectations of them now. Great question, great response by Derrick Goold, great pushback. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. That's why he's one of the best. Now, I don't know if you guys ever interact with him on Twitter, but he can get feisty on Twitter, which is fun, push back, but I do have a lot of respect for Derrick Goold because he is a master of his craft.
It's a different perspective. I mean, I look at it as, we're in a tough stretch, and how are you going to go and deal with it? And I think we're all naive to not think we're going to play 162 games and not have a tough stretch. And some of the questions are, how are you dealing with it? And that's how I use as an example of dealing with it. I get the fact there's expectations. I also get the fact that, we've got some things that we need to improve upon, and some areas that we need to improve.
All right, so that's it. Like I said, if you get a chance, or don't take a chance, whenever you get a chance, go over to Charlie Marlowe's page and give him a follow. That's where I got that video. He posts things like that. He's got his own little podcast that he does, which is pretty good. Go over there, give him a follow, tell him the Usual Suspects sent you, and help support him, because there's always some good stuff going on there. But let's talk a little bit about this team and what I think we could do better, and then I will wrap it up and go, because I usually only go about 35 minutes on this, and we're closing in on an hour. But to me, the biggest problem this Cardinals team has is the hitting coach, the hitting system. It's not working. At some point, you have to admit that it's not working, and you need to change course. Now, one of the things I recently found out is they brought Jeff Albert in to deploy a hitting system throughout their farm system, not just at the major league level, right? So he's not just the hitting coach for the major leagues. He's also installing a system that is going to basically revolutionize what the Cardinals are doing as an offense from top to bottom, from single A up to the big leagues. When he is that far ingrained in your system, whenever you're changing everything, if you would throw him out, that means you throw out all of that. And that would probably explain, for better or for worse, that would explain why the Cardinals are hesitant to pull the plug on this whole operation. They said they were going to give him time, but at some point, it's not working, right? Aaron pointed this out, my co-host for our regular show. He pointed this out a couple days ago or yesterday on Twitter. He showed what Paul DeJong did before Jeff Albert and what he's done after Jeff Albert. and it's atrocious. It's criminal how bad he has been. And the other part about the hitting system is name a hitter that has come to St. Louis from an outside organization that has actually done better in St. Louis than they did at the other place. They've all fallen off. Every big name that they expected to bring in here to be something special has fallen off. Marcell Ozuna, Paul Goldschmidt is under. So is Nolan Arenado. He's not hitting like he did. It's just, I don't know how else you can look at it but say, well, this system isn't working. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how you have the success that Jeff Albert has and get a job only to be a complete and abject failure to this point at the major league level. Jeff Albert was in the minor league system with Houston, I believe it was. And so everybody saw how Houston was hitting, and we were like, ooh, hey, this could be good. If he can bring whatever it is that they're doing to this team, awesome, because Houston was going to World Series, and they were hitting the cover off the ball. They brought him in 2019, and in 2018, the Houston Astros came to St. Louis and just absolutely knocked the ball around on us. It was something to behold. So we thought, hey, let's do that. Well, lo and behold, Houston was cheating. So that's why their major league offense was so good, and it wasn't necessarily because of the success of Jeff Albert's system in the minor leagues. And Jeff Albert's system wasn't the system in Houston. He was part of the system. So maybe he doesn't know everything that was going on in Houston that he could use. Hard to say. But to me, he's the problem. Whether or not that means firing him, maybe to me you fire him. But at the very least, he needs to adjust what he's doing. He has to be able to observe his outcomes of the guys that he's been given, because he has been given good guys. He's been given the two best corner infielders offensively and defensively, and he's not done anything with them. He took a really good hitting shortstop and turned him into an absolute dud. Yadier Molina's hitting the best he's probably hit in his career, but I would say that's more, you don't coach Yadier Molina. Yadier Molina coaches you. I don't know how much effort and how much interaction Yadi and Jeff have. I think Yadi does his thing. That's just the way he strikes me. Yadi tells Shildt when he's going to be in the lineup, and I think he just does his own thing because he's had success at it for so long. So I don't know that. Darren here asked, where's Buddha? And he seemed to be the future. He seemed like the future for us. Yeah, so in 2019, in the middle of the season, Buddha was still the assistant hitting coach, kind of doing the bridge transition thing to Jeff Albert. And he was fired because there was I think the official word was a disagreement on hitting philosophies. If you guys remember, John Mabry was fired in 2018, and when he went, Mabry and I believe Matheny and everybody all went at the same time. They brought in Shildt, and they brought Buddha up to be the hitting coach. And when they brought him up to be the hitting coach, that's when you saw this team take off. So whatever he had, it was working with these guys. It really was. It was just flowing right through with these guys. But him and Jeff Albert had a difference in hitting philosophy, and that has led to what you have seen now. And they're like, well, Jeff Albert is the future. He's going to install this program and throughout our league, or throughout our system, and so we're just going to side with him, and Buddha needs to go. So they let Buddha go. So that's what happened to, and I don't remember his full name. I never can pronounce it correctly. Anyway, so to me, Jeff Albert's the problem. Jeff Albert can fix this by not being so bullheaded. You know what I'm saying? I always have this question about coaches. Do they come in and do they make their system fit the guys that they have, or do they try to make the guys that they have fit their system? And I think a good coach can make his system fit the guys that he has until he can get the guys that he needs to make his system work. And he just hasn't done that. And what you end up with is something that doesn't work. There's no give and take between the type of player that you have versus the type of system you have. And if you give and take, then maybe you'll have more success. But anyway, I don't have anything else. I really want to thank you guys for joining us today. I know I went a little long. But if you would, like the Facebook page, like the stream. If you're watching on Twitter, give us a follow. If you are watching on YouTube, Like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you get an alert or a reminder whenever we go live. We try to do 2 shows a week. We didn't do one this Monday because we've got VBS and I am too busy to do that. But we'll be back with the regular show on Mondays at 6:30, 7 o'clock, somewhere around there, and then the Cards with Coffee at 9 on Wednesday mornings. Thanks again for watching, guys. I have a really good time doing these. Hope to see you next time. Peace out.